Christ is risen. This phrase echoes around the world every single year and will do for eternity, because there is so much truth and beauty in these few simple words. In the Gospel of Matthew, the women arrive at the tomb to find it empty, except for an angel who says to them, "He is not here, for he is risen." In the Gospel of Luke, two followers of Christ rush back to Jerusalem after a shocking encounter in Emmaus. When they burst in on a room full of disciples, they cry out, "The Lord is risen indeed." According to tradition, when St. Mary Magdalene was summoned in front of the emperor who had asked her to renounce her faith, the first words with which she greets the emperor are, "Christ is risen." For centuries beyond count, the greeting of "Christ is risen" has been the customary way to greet and to farewell people in the season immediately following Easter, or the Paschal season. The phrase has been whispered, shouted, sung, chanted, and spoken in almost every single language on earth. It is always traditionally answered with a response for the affirmative. In the English language there are a few variants. The one I grew up with is "He is risen indeed." You might say "Truly he is risen," or "He is truly risen." In any case, however it is replied, it is always in the present. It isn't rose, it isn't past tense. Christ is risen. He is truly risen. When we mark the resurrection, we aren't remembering an event that happened centuries and centuries ago. We are remembering a truth that is ongoing. Christ is risen from the dead, and he is still with us. And despite the shortness of this phrase, no other book or song can really quite come close to the sheer level of joy that we feel when we hear the words, "Christ is risen." This episode is a little bit different to our normal ones because we're not quoting an early church figure or an Eastern Orthodox saint. In a meeting between East and West, we're going to take a look at a literary account from a Western European writer. The Orthodox world often seems so vastly different to everything that people in the West are used to. And so it is inspiring and exciting to see what happens when a person used to the ideas of the West comes and witnesses Eastern Orthodoxy for the first time. And what we're going to do is take a look at a recent-ish account from the 19th century by famous fantasy writer Hans Christian-Andersen, who took a trip through the Mediterranean and experienced Orthodox Easter. Hans Christian-Andersen was from Denmark. He is an author famous for creating characters such as the Snow Queen, the Ugly Duckling, and the Little Mermaid, amongst others. In the 1840s, he travelled to the Mediterranean and across Turkey and Greece. Being a well-rounded traveller, he was able to see Easter being celebrated in the Vatican in Rome, and then later was able to see it in the capital city of Athens in Greece. His account of Easter in Greece is a powerful approach to what it means to say Christ is risen. The Easter of the Catholics in Italy, and particularly in Rome, is grand, fascinating. It is an elevating sight to see that immense mass of beings fall on their knees in St. Peter's Place and receive a benediction. The Easter festival in Greece cannot show such magnificence. Its resources are too small. But after having seen both, one comes to the conviction that in Rome it is a feast which in its glory and splendour issues out from the church to the people. But in Greece, it is a feast which streams from the heart and thoughts of the people, from their very lives. The church is but a link in the chain. The festival itself began that evening. I went to the principal church. It was splendidly illuminated and completely full. Before the altar stood a glass coffin fastened with silver plates. The coffin contained fresh roses intended to represent the dead Saviour. A strange humming of voices from the praying congregation sounded through the house of God. Priests in multicoloured vestments and bishops came and went before the altar where they read the prayers. At 9 o'clock in the evening, sacred music began, and the procession started from the church through the chief street to the palace. I saw the slowly moving procession conveniently from my window. It was one of the most solemn I have ever seen. It was a glittering starlit night, so mild and calm. Every spectator in the balconies and open windows stood with a burning candle in his hand. The music ascended to us from the side street. The smell of incense filled the air. Mournful music proceeded from the military bands as though the people carried their king to his grave. The coffin containing the fresh red roses was borne along, surrounded by the priests. Over it hung a long red mourning veil, which was held by the chief statesmen and higher officers of the kingdom. A crowd of these officers, and then the great mass of people, all, as I have said, with burning candles, concluded the procession. There was a stillness, an apparent sorrow or devotion which worked its effect upon every mind. The bishop made a short speech outside the palace where the king and queen stood, and then the king kissed the Holy Gospel. During the whole ceremony there was a monotonous ringing of bells, always 2 strokes and then a short pause. Day and night the church was filled with people. The king, the queen, and the whole court were there on the midnight before Easter Day. The priests stood praying and mourning around the flower-filled coffin. The whole congregation prayed in silence. The clock struck 12, and at the same moment the bishop stepped forth and said, "Christ is risen." "Christ is risen" burst from every tongue. Kettle drums and trumpets sent forth their strains. The music played the liveliest dances. The whole people fell on each other's necks, kissed, and joyously cried, "Christ is risen." Shot after shot was heard outside. Rockets darted into the air. Torches were lighted. Men and young lads, each with a candle in his hand, danced in a long row through the city. The women kindled fires, slaughtered lambs and roasted them in the streets. Little children who had all got new fez and new red shoes danced in their shirts around the fire, kissed each other and exclaimed like their parents, "Christ is risen." Oh, I could have pressed each of these children to my heart and exulted with them, "Christ is risen." It was touching, elevating, and beautiful. It may be said that the whole was a ceremony, and it may be added, certainly with some truth, that their rejoicings expressed the satisfaction of the people that the rigorous fast was over, and that now they could eat their lamb and drink their wine. Well, admit that the fact was so, still I dare venture to say there was something more. There was a true, a sincere religious jubilee. Christ was in their thoughts as on their lips. Christ is risen was the mutual assurance, made as though it were no bygone event. No, it was as if it had taken place on that night and in this land. It was as if the assurance had reached their ears at that moment, and for the first time. There were music and dancing everywhere in the capital and in every little town throughout the kingdom. All labour was suspended, everyone thought only of pleasure. There were dancing and mirth near Theseus's temple and under Zeus's marble columns. The mandolin twanged, the old joined in the song, and during the general joy the words of welcome and leave-taking were, "Christ is risen." Done. Because that is from a literary master encountering the greatest event in history. So once again, Christ is risen. We hope you have had a splendid Paschal celebration. We have accompanied this episode with a cup of Greek mountain tea, sometimes known as shepherd's tea. It is an ancient tea from Greece that has been used medicinally for absolutely centuries, and it's delicious. It is also recommended by Hippocrates himself, the creator of the Hippocratic Oath, over 2,000 years ago. Also in Crete, I think, this tea is known as good sleep tea, not because it actually makes you sleepy, but because shepherds used it as bedding. They would be able to lie on it. It's very soft. The flowers are very soft, and so you can relax on it.